Evidence? They need evidence in an Egyptian court? What, are you kidding? There are no rules of evidence in an Egyptian court. You're not entitled to any rights in an Egyptian court. They found him not guilty of killing the leader of the country, Anwar Sadat, because the whole court system and all of Egyptian society is sympathetic to these monsters. I mean, it's unbelievable. And it is to this society and this situation that Janet the Rhino was going to return Sheikh Rahman and these other murderers in the World Trade Center bombing. She was going to return them and extradite them to Egypt so that nothing would happen to them after what they did in bombing the World Trade Center and killing 6 innocent people. We immediately began a massive campaign, and thousands of letters were written to the Rhino. Thousands of letters were written to that filthy traitor, Bill Clinton, Yamach Shmo, who pollutes the office of the White House. Thousands of letters were written to these hideous people, warning them of the repercussions, warning them that they would be blamed the next time these terrorists struck in the United States. And only because of that, in September of last year, or it was August of last year. In August of last year, Janet the Rhino and the Justice Department indicted Sheikh Rahman and the others and charged them with these hideous crimes, thanks to JTF only. Remember, Congressman Schmuck Schumer was saying, just extradite them to Egypt, that's good enough. Just extradite them, that's good enough. Edwina Koch said the same thing. Everybody was saying, if they're extradited, that's good enough. Now, of course, we're now facing a very bad situation because Sheikh Rahman and those terrorists are horrible people, but as we've seen with recent terrorist attacks around the world, that's not the end of the problem. That's not the end of the situation. The terrorist attacks that we've seen the PLO terrorists commit in Israel now, even though they supposedly have an Oslo agreement that they signed last year, an Oslo agreement. Since that Oslo agreement has been signed, the rate of murder against Jews has tripled in Israel. Since they signed the agreement, the rate of Jews being murdered by Arab Muslim Nazi terrorists in Israel under direct orders from the Arab Hitler Yasser Arafat has tripled. Because the Quran teaches them that when you sign a treaty with the Kufrim, with the infidels, you must lie and cheat. Muhammad himself did it. Muhammad signed a treaty with the tribe Quraysh in the Arabian Peninsula, promised them 10 years of peace, and after 2 years, staged a sneak surprise attack and slaughtered the entire tribe Quraysh, killed every man, woman, and child. In fact, Muhammad, to show you what Islam is all about, exterminated every non-Muslim man, woman, and child in the Arabian Peninsula. He beheaded hundreds of Jewish men, women, and children, beheaded them. He tortured and slaughtered Christians and animists. Every Jew, every Christian, every animist, every non-Muslim in the Arabian Peninsula was either forcibly converted or, as happened in many cases, just exterminated on the spot. That is what Islam is. Muhammad recounts this in the Quran, and it is clearly explained that this is what jihad, this is what holy war means, and this is what Muslims must do in every generation. This is in the Quran. This is all in the Quran. This is not a history lesson that Chaim ben Pesach is giving you. This is history from the Quran, where Muhammad brags about the fact that he signed a treaty of peace with the tribe Quraysh, brags about the fact that he violated the treaty, brags about the fact that he staged a sneak attack on this people that just wanted to live in peace, brags about the fact that he exterminated them, brags about it, and uses it as instruction for Muslims in every generation to do likewise. And that's why all the Muslims hate us. All the Muslims hate us. When they say, well, we don't agree with the bombing of the World Trade Center, because last year we heard some Muslims saying, oh, no, we don't agree with this, we don't. But because of your policies in the Middle East and because you oppress the Muslims, this is why you have this situation. There's always a but there. There's always a justification and a backpedaling. This is such obvious justification. It's so obvious that they do agree with it. It's so obvious that they know this is part of their culture, their religion. They feel no pity. They don't believe that non-Muslims are worthy of any pity. They believe that non-Muslims should be exterminated. Non-Muslims are lower than dogs in their religion. Non-Muslims are like devils or demons in their religion. That's why they call the United States the Great Satan and they call Israel the Little Satan. Anyone who doesn't believe in Islam to them is a child of Satan. Remember Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill called the Nazi Quran the Mein Kampf of war. Winston Churchill compared the Quran to Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler's notorious book. And by the way, just as Adolf Hitler's book makes no sense and is a complete lunatic collection of warped, insane, utterly disjointed thinking right out of a mental asylum, the same thing the Quran. The Quran is completely right out of a mental asylum. You read that book, it makes no sense whatsoever. Just like Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, makes no sense. And Winston Churchill, but reading the Quran, said this is just like Mein Kampf. This is just like Hitler's book. Muhammad is just like Hitler. This was Winston Churchill speaking at a time when we weren't politically correct yet. And it was still okay to tell at least a little truth. It was still okay. Now, of course, you're not allowed to tell any truth. If you want to bash Christianity or you want to bash Judaism, that's fine. You want to bash Islam? Oh, no, that you can't do. Now, these people have been vowing to return to the scene of the crime. Because when somebody, let me tell you the mindset of these people, as someone who knows something about this business. And of course, I'm from the enemy. I'm their enemy. I'm speaking from their enemy side, but I understand something about the business of going out and bombing and doing these types of things. I understand more about the business than 99% of people would understand. When somebody targets something and it doesn't come out the way they wanted it to, they're going to return to that target when they get the opportunity to. These people are going to return to the World Trade Center, and I am telling you, you can call it paranoia, you can call it whatever you want. Because we were called paranoid when we predicted, right up until the bombing of the World Trade Center, right up until the bombing, we were called paranoid when we said that the Arab Muslim terrorists were going to strike and were going to commit acts of terrorism, and we were warning, ever since the murder of Rabbi Kahana in 1990, we were warning that this was going to happen. And the FBI and the police and the media and everybody ignored these warnings, and they all said, well, we're just saying this because we're angry at them for having murdered our leader, Rabbi Kahana, and that there's no truth to this, and there's no proof of this, and there's no evidence of this, and this is nonsense. And they're loyal Americans, and they live here, peaceably, and they go to their mosque in Jersey City. This is what we were told. Now, after we were proven right, and everyone else was proven wrong, do you think people have learned their lesson? You think people have learned? They haven't learned. They're going to return to the Twin Towers. They're not going to return this year or next year. They're going to return maybe in 1996, 1997, 1998, when our guard is down. After several years, our guard is going to be down. We're going to feel that threat already has passed, that they're going to try something different, that they're not going to come into the middle of New York City anymore. And when our guard is down, they're going to return. And this time they're going to come with a bomb that is going to be able to take down the Twin Towers. Because they're going to test it for years. They're going to make sure that they don't fail this time. This time they're going to make sure that they don't go through that all over again and just not to achieve their goal, to go through all that trouble and then not achieve their goal. They're not going to do that ever again. They're going to make sure that this time they succeed, if they can, God forbid. If they can, God forbid. This time, they're going to come in with a bomb that will in fact cause the collapse of the Twin Towers and kill tens of thousands of innocent people. That is what they're going to do. Make no mistake about it. And of course, when it happens, everybody's going to say, we're shocked. How could they do such a thing? We can't believe it. We're shocked. Just as people were shocked last year. When they did it last year, people were shocked. People are always shocked. When every time the terrorists murder Jews in Israel, every time the PLO murderers kill innocent women and children in Israel, the Jews are shocked again and again and again. How many times can you be shocked? They've said they want to exterminate you. They've said this over and over again. That's all they've been doing for a whole century against the Jews in Israel, and you're shocked that they're killing Jewish women and children. Why are you shocked? They promised you they're going to do this for a whole century. Why are you shocked? They'll never be happy until every Jew in Israel is dead. They'll never be happy until America is destroyed. They'll never be happy until every non-Muslim is dead in the whole world. Because Islam tells them and teaches them that the day will come when this is going to be a Muslim world, when they're going to conquer the whole world for Allah. This is what the Quran teaches them. As Winston Churchill said, it's the Mein Kampf of war. It's a Hitlerian book of intolerance and absolute vicious violence and belligerence and terror. Muhammad was the first Muslim terrorist. Muhammad was the instructor of Muslim terrorists. Everyone else who commits acts of terrorism and murder are just following in Muhammad's bloody tracks. He spread his whole religion with the sword. Muhammad's entire religion was spread with the sword. He didn't spread his religion by going on television with the 700 Club. He didn't spread his religion by handing out tracts. He couldn't hand out tracts anyway. He didn't know how to read or write. He spread his religion with the sword. You either accepted it or you were killed. That's how he spread his religion. Now, you know, we're the only program that issued the warnings before the bombing of the World Trade Center. We're the only program that led the campaign to bring these animals to justice and successfully led that campaign, Sheikh Rahman and the other animals. We're the only organization that today warns you that much worse terrorist acts are coming, where it won't just be 6 people killed, it will be much larger numbers, thousands, tens of thousands, and eventually millions of people with weapons of chemical, biological, and nuclear mass destruction are going to be used. We've warned you over and over again about this, and we're warning you again. As long as we say it isn't Islam that's bad, as long as we say not all Muslims are bad, there are Muslim moderates, there are Arab moderates, if we keep playing this game, we're going to be hit again and again, and each time it's going to get worse and worse. And they're going to keep playing this little good cop, bad cop game with us. If they're willing to exterminate us, don't you think they're willing to lie to us? If they're willing to kill every man, woman, and child, if they're willing to commit these vicious acts of murder, don't you think they're also willing to lie to us? And the Quran explicitly teaches them to lie, teaches them to sign treaties and make pledges and make oaths and lie to kill the infidel. The Quran explicitly commands them to do this. This is what Muhammad himself did in the Quran with the tribe Quraysh and in other situations. Read the Quran and see for yourself. The Quran teaches lying to non-Muslims. With non-Muslims, anything goes. You can lie, you can cheat, you can murder, you can steal, you can rape, you can do anything you want if it's a non-Muslim. The Mein Kampf of war. But as long as we keep playing this little game, that Islam is one of the 3 great religions, like Judaism and Christianity, and it's the same as Judaism and Christianity. We want to keep playing this little game. Terrible, terrible things are going to happen if we keep this up, if we don't face the fact that Islam is the enemy of America and Israel. Terrible, terrible tragedies are coming, and many, many innocent people will be killed. I can't tell you to make a check out to JTF and send it to the address you see on your screen. I can only tell you to write to us because there are rules that are made especially for us. But I can tell you to write to us, and you write to JTF P.O. Box 1304. That's P.O. Box 1304, New York, New York 10159. Again, JTF P.O. Box 1304, New York, New York 10159. JTF P.O. Box 1304, New York, New York 10159. Let us do what's right. Let us fight for what's right and believe in what's right. And if we face truth and reality with courage and honesty, we can prevail. Shalom.